Well, I've just caught up with Jonathan at the golf club, and I'd just like to ask you a few questions, Jonathan, about worship.
We won, for the record.
They won, yes, they did. I can see. Jonathan is our worship coordinator at St James's, and our mission statement says, Jonathan, that we are seeking to connect to God. How does worship actually help us do this?
Worship is absolutely about connecting with God. It's about the presence of God. And as a worship leader, I see it as my role is to help usher people into the presence of God. But actually, worship is about so much more than connecting, I think. For me, worship is about that first commandment, the priority number one that Jesus gives, the total alignment of our spiritual, our emotional, our intellectual, our physical capacity with the will of God. And in seeking this, it's not possible to seek this without allowing ourselves also to change. So worship is as much about changing as it is about connecting with God. I'm really passionate about that. But through that change, we become agents of transformation. And this is the vision of St. James. Worship is about transformation as well. Archbishop William Temple said that the world can be saved from political collapse and economic chaos by one thing, and that one thing is worship. And I believe that the reason for that is because when we worship, we put God first in our lives. We put the presence of God first in our lives. And it's about not doing things in our own strength, but it's about standing there and giving God's Spirit, the transformative power of God's Spirit, the space to come and work in our communities, in our lives, in our relationships. And that happens when we worship. So I do also believe that worship is about transformation, and that as we worship as a community at St James, we transform the community of Clitheroe and Lancashire here in the Northwest.
So worship is obviously a lot more than just singing. It's much more than just music. So it's really about connecting, changing, and transforming.
Worship is about the sacrifice of our entire lives to God. But singing on a Sunday morning, I really hope encapsulates all three of this. Right. I really believe that that's the aim, that's the vision, that through singing on a Sunday morning, we connect, we change, we transform as well.
So we're really blessed at St James's to have lots of people involved in worship, singing and playing and leading. How can you tell us a bit how the system works?
Sure. So the worship team, we're about 30 people. We have 30 people who are they have such God-given gifts and a real passion to see that musical gift turn back to His praise. So it's a real privilege to work with the worship team at St James. We meet for a midweek band practice each week. There's a rota group of musicians that are on about 1 week in every 4 or 5. They practice for about 2-3 hours during the week, and that really is about using that God-given passion and talent for music to honour Him. So we nurture that talent. We seek to be the best musicians we can, but then we step in on a Sunday morning and we're leading a room full of people who are not necessarily musicians, and so there the shift changes to being about prayer, about God's Spirit, about welcoming Him into our lives. And in my opinion, there's no greater privilege than to be involved in that process of ushering in God's presence and connecting people with God for change and for transformation.
So it's much more than just turning up and playing an instrument on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Actually much more about heart and commitment, and there's lots that goes on behind the scenes that we don't see. We just maybe turn up on a Sunday morning and these musicians are playing, but actually the heart and the commitment that's been there during the week to produce whatever the journey with worship that we're going on a Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So going forward, what would you like to see? How would you like to see worship on a Sunday develop? Are there some ideas that you have that you'd want to share with us? What are your hopes and dreams?
So the aim, the vision, is to create spaces where all eyes are on God, and we're trying to do that through, first of all, our own private worship, our own private prayer. Because if we're not in a space where we can worship and pray, then it's going to be difficult to help other people be in that space as well. So, one thing I'm really trying to develop is that rhythm and life of worship and prayer, and that we do that as a team as well, through team training evenings and team prayer and worship evenings. Sadly, those are on hold because of COVID, so I really can't wait to get going with that again. But on a practical level, I really think that we could make a whole lot more of the tech that we have at church. We're very blessed at St James with some fantastic tech resources, and so I'm hoping to work with some people to help improve the way that we use that tech to take things in a new direction with that. And then also very practically, we're always praying for new people, new members, new musicians. We always welcome them in. Please contact me, drop me an email, and there's a page on the website. Go and hunt down our worship page on the website for more details about that. In particular, we're praying for keyboardists, bassists, and lead instrumentalists. I'd love an electric guitar or two. That'd be great. But if you're interested in joining, I'd love to hear from you.
Jonathan, thank you. And will you pass on our thanks to all those who take part in leading worship on a Sunday, because we're really blessed and we really do appreciate the time and effort and the commitment that everyone puts in. And thank you for joining us. And I'm going to beat you next week, of course.
You hope, yeah.